Section 13 is the vocabulary of lines. In the warm-up, we're asked to review some of the information we already know about lines. So in question number 1, part A, it says state two ordered pairs which lie in the line. So we're picking just any 2 points that we can see. Now, generally speaking, I'm going to pick points that are easy to find on either the x or y axis or on whole numbers for the x and the y coordinates. So I chose the point 0 and -2, the x being 0 and the y being -2. And the point 1, 2, x is 1 and y is 2. For part B, we're asked to state which quadrants to which the line does pass. So the ordering of the quadrants starts in quadrant 1 up here in the upper right, and it goes in a counterclockwise fashion. So quadrant 1, 2, 3, and 4. So the ones that it does pass through, quadrant 1, that's a good one. Quadrant 2, it does not. Quadrant 3, the line does. And quadrant 4 does as well, just in that one little tiny sliver. And part C says state whether the line is rising or falling as you move left to right. And that's going to be the key, is we want to move from left to right anytime we're trying to figure out rising or falling. So moving left to right, if I get to this point right here where the line appears to start, I'm going to move over, and it tends to go up, so that is a rising line as I move left to right. In question 2, similar thing, we're looking for 3 ordered pairs. So again, we're going to identify the x and the y, -3, 5, 0, 3, and 3, 1. And part B says state the quadrant of which the line does not pass. So again, the quadrant 1, it does pass through there. Quadrant 2, it does. Quadrant 3, the line does definitely not go into that area. And then quadrant 4, we do have this one little tiny piece right there. So that does actually fit into quadrant 4. And part C, state whether the line is rising or falling as you move left to right. So if we move left to right, the y coordinate is getting smaller and smaller, moving in that direction. So it is definitely falling for that line. In activity 1 for section 13, we're again reviewing some vocab. The first question and the second question that were asked are very related. The first one says, find the value of the x-intercept. And the definition of an x-intercept is where the line crosses the x-axis. And in question number 2, we're asked to find the value of the y-intercept. And our definition there is where the line crosses the y-axis. So in the first question, I'm just looking to identify right here, this is where the line crosses the x-axis at the point -1. Again, it's a value that we're looking for. Then I'm looking at the y-coordinate. Sorry about that color change there. The y-intercept, and I'm looking for the line crosses the y-axis. So there's my point right there. The value of the y-intercept is 1, because that's the y-coordinate. Question 3 asks us to find the value of the slope. Now there are many different ways that we can define the slope. The main way that we're going to do that is to be able to think of it as a change. Change in a y-coordinate or vertical coordinate, and a change in an x or horizontal coordinate. So if I want to find the value of the slope, if I have a graph, I can use rise over run. I can figure out how much did it move up compared to how much did it move to the right. Again, we're going left to right anytime we do the run or any kind of change in the x coordinate. So looking at the point here, I just picked 2 points that were easy to pick, -1, 0, and 0, 1. And moving up here, I have a +1 for my vertical change. And then moving to the right, I also have a +1. So I find the rise, which is the change in the y-coordinate, is a +1, and divide that by the change in the horizontal or x-coordinate. That's also a +1. So I ended up with 1 over 1, which will reduce down to 1. Question 4 says state the quadrants which the line does not pass. So again, we're starting in quadrant 1 here and working our way around. And the only one I see the line doesn't go through is quadrant 4. Number 5, is the graph a function of y in terms of x? So again, this will review back to what we've already done with functions. That of part tells us what our input is. The input in this case is x, and the output is y. So if I'm looking left to right here, I'm looking for a value of x that when I plug that in, gives me 2 different values of y. And I'm not seeing it. It's -5, -4, all of these values here, if I plug x in, I know what y is. I know what the output is. It's very, very predictable. And that's actually a really good thing because we want it to be predictable. So yes, it is definitely a function. Now when we look at the next graph, again 5 of the same questions essentially, we're looking now at a horizontal line, a little bit different. So this line right here appears to just kind of stay flat the entire time. So that's going to change our answers a little bit. Question number 6 says find the value of the x-intercept. Well, I'm looking for where this line is going to cross the x-axis, and I just don't see it. It seems to be like it's flat the entire time, and it definitely does not cross that x-axis. So there's none. We can't find that value. Question number 7, we're asked to find the value of the y-intercept. So the value of the y-intercept is where the line crosses the y-axis, and there it is right there. The value is at -2. On question 7, I'm asked to find the slope of the, or sorry, question 8, I'm asked to find the slope of the line. So I'm looking at these 2 points right here. Those are the ones I just selected. And looking from this point to this point, the rise is a +0. I didn't go up at all. But the run is a +2, moving from left to right. So to calculate the slope, it's 0 divided by 2, change in y over change in x, which will give me 0. And 9 says state through which quadrant the line does not pass. It does not pass through quadrant 1 or quadrant 2. And once again, yes, y is a function in terms of x. So we're good to go with that. On 16 through 20, we skipped a graph because it's just more of the same type of thing. But 16 through 20 was kind of a special graph for us. So number 16 says find the value of the x-intercept. So in the x-intercept, again, is where the line is going to cross the x-axis. So this is a vertical line, a line that goes straight up and down, and it definitely crosses right there at the point of the value -4. 17, find the value of the y-intercept. Where does this graph cross the y-axis? It doesn't. So there is no y-intercept. Now here's the tricky part. When we're trying to find the value of the slope in question number 18, we want to think about a vertical change divided by a horizontal change. Again, I randomly picked 2 points. I picked the one here that I already knew from the x-intercept and this point above it. So the change in the height is a +2, but there is no horizontal change. Going from 2 points on the graph, it's just straight up and down. So if I take 2 and I divide it by 0, or actually any number, and divide it by 0, I really can't do that. It's an undefined number. It's impossible to do. 19, state the quadrants to which the line does not pass, quadrant 1 and quadrant 4. And this is a little bit more challenging one. Is the graph a function of y in terms of x? X being our input and y being the output. Well, if I have an input of -4, I have a lot of different outputs. -4 is, as the x value, it produces a lot of different y's. So this is a really terrible example of something trying to be a function because it's not even close. So is the graph a function of y in terms of x? No way.